Hi, my name is Tiara Staples, and I will be directing a scene from the Language Archive by Julia Cho. So this play is about how essential communication is to our connections as human beings. And right now, we have entered our post-COVID era. We are in the era of social media and AI and all these things that have really disconnected us from one another. We've had a setback in our social skills, and I just think it's really important that we tell stories about the importance of communication in our lives, and the Language Archive kind of serves as a cautionary tale in that aspect. Also, Julia Cho is a Asian American woman of color, and it's very important to uplift Asian American voices in our field and in all fields, but especially because they're underrepresented in the entertainment industry. So I'm the best person to direct the Language Archive because I have a unique experience as a musician, and that has led to me being able to interpret the play in a way that not a lot of people might. I see the play very musically in the way that George and Mary's fights are constructed. It's very jazz-like in that you can feel the kind of syncopation and the dissonance in it. And I just feel that the way it flows reads better to my musician brain. Also, as a woman of color, I'm able to see certain themes that Julia Cho has laid out in the Language Archive that some people might not be able to see, like the feeling not feeling heard, and the sense of isolation that you feel in your relationship as a woman of color. So ideally, I would cast Laverne Cox in Brian Michael Smith. These are two black trans people, and they are also underrepresented in our industry, the theater industry. So I would love to just bring in as many voices as possible into this play. I would also exaggerate the set and make it as colorful as possible because I think it would lead more into the absurdist nature of the Language Archive, and that would be a very not only visually appealing, but it also you can kind of see that it's a satire when you do it that way. Something else I would add is the severe lighting when it comes to George and Mary when they have their little asides. Is I would like to have that spotlight on each character to differentiate from the audience when George and Mary are just speaking out like sitcom characters and when they are having their internal monologues. Ideally, it would be in the proscenium stage because it does have that picture element to it where it's separated from the audience and the actors are separated, and it just serves this cautionary tale more. We have that sitcom setting, and you want the audience to be somewhat detached from the stage. You want them to see this as a picture, as a movie, as something. I think the proscenium stage better suits that. So the main thing I want people to take away from this is to see themselves in George and Mary. I want to see how I want them to see or feel understood in their feeling of not feeling heard, and also understand others when they see George and how he doesn't understand Mary. I want them to feel understood and to understand. I would also like for them to prioritize communication in their lives, to see this as a cautionary tale that this is what will happen if you don't communicate your feelings open and honestly. So I would I would continue the absurdist elements of the play and our set and our landscape, just so people would be able to see that this is satire, but it's also very human. I want them to acknowledge themselves in this play and the absurdist nature of the interactions. So here is just some like evocative imagery that showcases some of those surrealist aspects. And then I also have some pictures in here that speak to that abstract feeling I want the set to have, with these bright colors, and one of these has a beaded sink, which is part of a larger art installation that comments more on the beauty of domesticity. And that just kind of speaks to the feeling I want to evoke in the play, but also this overall feeling of domesticity and suburban life and the ordinary, and just how beautiful that can be in contexts such as the language archive. And it just kind of just evokes that feeling. And then I have some other photos in here that just speak to this idea of life as somewhat of a performance, gender performance, sexuality performance, things like that. And that we're kind of performing for the audience that is humanity, and that life is kind of like a stage. And then I also I'm playing a song from this piece called Sonata Soufflé that I feel kind of showcases the rhythm of which an argument would sound like, kind of musically.
It's a very curious thing when your life leaves you. World slows down, words become lugubrious. My heart was beating very loudly, but instead of thumping, every beat was saying, "Take it back, take it back, take it back," just like that, like a rhythm. And
so I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Because I'm wondering, are you building up to that intensity when you start this little monologue here? Because I know we're doing this without you being in the scene where you can get all that, but it's imperative that you start this monologue higher, like
already higher,
emotionally, or like not in a higher mood, because you want to, throughout the course of this monologue, become more sad, more unhinged.
It's not too late. It's not too late. Take it back. Take it back. My whole body was shouting it. Couldn't she hear it? Why wasn't she saying something?
So that's a lot better, because you see how you were getting breathier and breathier, like
right.
You worked up to that
right.
Scared moment, but you started
right.
stunned.
It does make more sense when it's not an isolated moment like this. I think.
Right. But think about George in the scene, because you do this whole scene. You have just finished pretty much proving how right you are to Mary. Like,
you're right.
She was an old lady. Cookie was a dog. Death isn't a tragedy. Like, you just spent this whole time really wagging your finger in her face. Well, actually, you are still kind of in that mode a little bit. You're in scientist mode. You aren't quite in your emotional mode. So you have to work up to that emotion throughout this monologue, or else it doesn't really pay off. Because then it's like whiplash. Because you're stunned, and then you're scared, and then because in the stages of grief, right? This is your bargaining. But you have to work up to you have to start with denial, right? To get to bargaining.
Oh yeah.